Welcome to the 624 Pod, your home for all things independent films. We're going to discuss all the positives and negatives when it comes to independent filmmaking. We're going to have incredible guests from the film industry talk about behind-the-scenes experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how the industry has changed in the past 10, 20
minutes.
30, yeah, minutes, hours, years. That's the point. It's always changing. And of course, we will always focus on independent filmmaking right here in our state of New Jersey. I'm Tom Baldinger.
And I'm Mark Rigodano.
All right, let's do this. All right, so here we are for another episode in Season 3 of the 624 podcast. I'm Tom Baldinger.
I'm Mark Rigodano.
We are your co-hosts, and we have a great guest with us in the studio, George Carlin.
You do have your hair back.
He's got the hair back like George Carlin. This is Richie Byrne. Richie Byrne.
What's up? I feel like you're cheating on me right in front of me.
I know.
This is weird.
Oh,
This is like
true.
this
true.
episode of the podcast is like the cuck.
Is it the cuckold?
Yeah, this is the cuck episode.
Yeah, I'm like, this is weird.
This is where I
buddy.
bring my old podcast partner in to watch me with my new.
I'm not your. Well,
younger,
I thought you meant
hotter.
old, like we don't do it anymore. You just meant I'm old.
Oh, shit.
I found a younger model.
That's funny.
Well,
Yeah, Mark and I have been partners on a podcast for what? Man, long time.
You know what I just noticed?
Drinks,
realized?
jokes, and storytelling.
Drinks, jokes, and storytelling.
let's
Tune
go.
in
Let's bring
on
it.
YouTube. as
Definitely
much as
go
possible.
see that. It's very, very good. Very, very good.
I this just dawned on me, and we were doing it before the pandemic, but this is actually like the 4-year anniversary of the pandemic.
Is it really?
Oh my God, you're right. It
It was 4
It was
years ago
yesterday.
this week.
Holy shit.
Well, it was 4 years ago yesterday, because today's the 12th. I know that's not live, but right? Is today the 12th?
Well, yeah, today's
How
the
did
12th.
I miss that?
But it started on the March
It did.
15th.
It started,
March 15th.
but I'll tell you what happened on the 11th. I was doing warm up for the Dr. Oz show,
Oh, okay.
and that was my last day.
Damn.
I'd been there since 2009,
Wow.
and they were like, "Listen, we're not going to have an audience, and so we're going to try and do it without an audience." And they're like, "But you'll be back." That was 4 years ago yesterday.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then that weekend, before that weekend even hit, all my gigs got canceled. And that Thursday, so it was March 11th, it was a Tuesday. I remember this, and that
Richie can't remember how to check his email, but
I can't remember
he's
his name. No, he's right. But March 11th, Tuesday, was my last day at Dr. Oz. On Wednesday, I got called, and they were like, "Hey, man, we're canceling the show Friday." Then I got a call, "We'll cancel the show Saturday." I go, this is scary.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to enjoy this time. The NCAA started on Thursday,
Oh, shit.
and I'm watching the NCAA. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the whole.
I get to
you
actually
get to
watch
sit
the
back
game.
and
and
watch
if
it
you
all.
remember, they canceled the game at the Garden at halftime.
Oh, that's
Do you remember that?
That's right.
At halftime of the game, they went
Who was playing?
Did they just send
I
people
want to
home?
say, yeah, they just told everyone to go home. I can't remember who was playing. It was like one of the first games. And my wife goes, "Man, it's like this thing is after you." Like, you know what I mean?
Specifically
Yeah.
targeted Richie Byrne.
I remember
Yeah.
that too. I was my daytime job. I work in the finance district and industry, and I was in London at a brand new office that the company that I still work for daytime, and it was a beautiful building, and I flew home, and I got home, and I was driving into work, and I got a call. My mother went to the hospital. I was like, "Oh shit!" Right. So I turned around. I drove down to the hospital. I walk in. And I think it was like March 12, March 13. I remember going into the hospital, and I'm hanging out with my dad. I see my mom there, whatever. And all of a sudden, I get my phone buzzes, and I'm like, "The fuck's this?" And it's my boss's boss's boss. It's like this woman who runs
All the way
whole-
up the chain.
all the way up the chain. And I'm like, "Hey," and I won't say her name. I'll just make up a name. "Oh, hey, Donna, what's going on?" And she's like, "Yeah, Tom, were you on the 3rd floor in our building there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I sat there for 4 days. I was in the London." She goes,
Do you know
Yeah,
about
you-
this stain?
"She's like, you." She goes, "Yeah, you might not want to come into the office. There's just like this COVID thing going on, whatever."
Yeah.
And it was 3 days later, shut down.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And then when I walked back up, a nurse must have heard me talking about it, and she came up to me. She goes, "You have to leave right now." And I was like, "But my mother's here." They're like, "No, you need to get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Well,
Like,
it closed. Everything closed down on the 16th. It was a Monday.
yes.
And the next day was St. Patty's. And I remember De Blasio saying on the weekend, he said, "Go out on Sunday, have a lot of fun." And I'm like, well, how does this make any sense? Like, how stupid is this? Like, if you said, "Don't leave your house right now," okay, I can kind of understand that.
Right.
But to say go out on Sunday, but you can't go out on Monday,
Right, yeah.
There was just everything they did during that whole
They
time
were
was
giving you a
complete
last
idiotic.
Oh, it was
But
so.
what? But it made no sense.
It was so insane.
it
was
made
so,
no
for
sense.
3 years. Insane.
And I remember when they were saying, "Don't wear masks," because they didn't have enough. Don't wear masks. They don't help. They don't help. And then like a month into it, and this is my belief, and I don't mean to get political here, but I think they realized that in order for people to feel like they were going to be involved in this, they need to give them something to do. Like and they ended up getting a lot of masks now from, and they were like,
nuts.
"It's important you wear masks. Everybody has to wear masks." And I'm like, and everybody went, "Well, I'm going to wear a mask," and I'm like, but didn't they just say a month ago not to wear masks?
It's
Didn't
so
they say
crazy.
that masks don't help?
It was such a crazy time. It affected every industry across the.
And it's still crazy.
It's still. I
Yeah.
mean, like everything from the entertainment industry, telecommunications.
Yeah.
Financial industry. Like it just. And today we're still feeling it. Like you think.
You're right.
Like you think about like
4 years. Wow.
in 2007, 2008, you had the financial crisis, right? Where you had the mortgages and everything. The whole financial backbone crashed, right? And it was felt throughout the financial industry and throughout the world for a long time. But then it was like, or what's next? And it was COVID. It was like COVID just broke us even more.
If this is
you
where
know?
the podcast is going, Dave, I'm going to need some more
know.
drink.
Isn't it funny?
Dave, we need some more alcohol.
Let's
No,
bring
no.
a comedian on. let's bring the least political comedian you have in the world on, and then somehow. Well, you brought up March 11th. That's what.
So
that's
well, hold
what
on.
threw me.
So let's get back to you guys. I want to talk about you two.
Drinks,
so,
jokes, and
drinks,
Well, that's what I was gonna
jokes and
talk about
storytelling.
is-
But how long have you guys known each other? Like, when did you guys first meet? Tell me about the first time you guys
It
met.
had to be 2001 because that's when I started working at Stand Up New York.
Okay.
Though clipping our podcast.
And by the way, folks, you can fast forward to 2.5 minutes to this part, so don't worry about the political stuff. Go ahead.
But it had to be 2001. But watching our podcast, I've been clipping it. Every single time we talk about how we met, every single time Richie goes, "I don't remember where. Mark was just always there."
You were always
I
there.
started in 91.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was always
I
there.
started like 1990, and I
You
thought
started
I could have.
started stand-up comedy.
I used to tell people that I was doing open mics with Mark Riccadonna in 1989, and he was like, "I was 4."
You were yeah.
I started in 80. I started in 87,
Okay.
but I didn't really get into it till 90.
Okay.
I was doing theater.
Yep.
And
And you went to Wagner
I
College.
went to Wagner College like you. Yeah. Wagner grad. Theater
Wagner
major.
alumni. Yep. Yeah.
Theater grad. And that was really when I was a kid. It's funny because when I was a kid, and comics say all the time they knew they wanted to be comics. I had no idea.
No.
Yeah.
And
That's
same
why
with
we
you.
get along.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid.
I
And
didn't know that.
that's not something you say to your family. So, and looking back, and this is funny because this only dawned on me recently. I used to say I want to be a lawyer. When people say, "What do you want to be?" I want to be a lawyer. And if you think about it, my whole thought of being a lawyer was standing in front of a bunch of people giving a speech.
That's a comedian.
And that's what a comedian does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that in my head was always, but the truth was I wanted to be an actor. When I was in grammar school, I went to see Shenandoah on Broadway, the musical Shenandoah.
Okay.
And I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. And I thought it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And I went, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know if I could sing or anything. And when I got into high school, I was playing sports and all this stuff. And one of my good friends in high school was involved in the theater. And he was like, "Dude, come audition for the play." And I'm like, and he said, "No, come on. And I went in and I got in the play.
How old were you?
15.
15.
I was a
Okay.
sophomore.
All right. Okay.
And I went to an all-boys Catholic high school in Staten Island.
What's
Farrell, Monsignor Farrell.
okay.
So where the what's their names? The guys who
The
did
Beatles.
No,
The Monkees.
Yes, that's where the Beatles.
The monkey.
I don't know. You pointed
No,
at me.
the comedy guys. I always forget their name. The 4 guys that make fun of each other. It's a big hit. Come on. The
Impractical Jokers.
yes, the Impractical Jokers actually went to my high school
get
and
out.
started doing that in the basement at my high school. But they're like 15 years younger than me. But it's just, I remember when I heard about that, I was like, oh my God. And I met Q at the Friars Club, and I'm like, dude, if I were 15 years younger, I would have totally been a part of this. There's no way I wouldn't have been, because I was doing all that crap.
Yeah.
Not that. That was brilliant. What they did was genius.
Right,
I mean,
right,
they're just
right.
brilliant. But I was doing theater, and because I was doing all boys high school, we did all the girls' high school plays. So I started doing plays. I was doing like 6, 7 plays a year, which is, that's no better way to learn how to do something.
Right, yeah, just
than
get
be
up
in
there.
it,
Get up there and
which
do
is
it.
the whole thing with comedy. And I majored in theater at Wagner and had a good time and did a lot of plays there. And then that was my thought, was I want to be on Broadway. That's actually funny. That was my first goal. And it's the one goal I have not attained. I've never been on Broadway.
You've done everything else.
I've
in
done
this
just
business.
about everything else except
But
that.
I'm still curious. You think you met him in 1991?
Well,
you say you met him in
so
2001.
I started.
So there's a decade there that there's a gap
Because
there.
it's
That I
I'm
went
having
through puberty.
I'm having a.
Well, I came out of that 90s binge of drugs and realized Mark wasn't there.
Was Robert De Niro with you?
I was with De Niro. I was
Oh, not De Niro. Robert
not
Downey.
De Niro. Downey.
Downey,
Yes,
Robert Downey.
Well, see, the thing is Richie actually met Artie Lang and thought it was me.
I did. No, that's not.
Not for. No.
Oh, geez, that's
But,
hilarious.
But Mark,
Well,
you know what it is? Mark was
was a door
managing
guy.
Stand Up New York,
Yeah.
Oh, get out.
yeah. So
Okay.
for a long time, he was just around. So and
Well, and the other thing was I didn't know I wanted to be a comedian, but I worked at the comedy club
How did you get that job?
because I needed money.
So you just
And-
needed. So
and
you just.
I needed a day job because I was in school and I needed a job that was at night and I needed a job that I could still go to school and do all the things I need to do. And all my friends were getting bartending jobs and I went, well, I'm going to go get a job at a comedy club. I can watch comedy while I wait tables.
So what is that? By the way, do you
But
need a
then-
drink or something? Like, are you?
no, I'm all right.
But then I found out I was the worst
I
waiter
should have
on
brought
the
a drink.
planet.
But how do you like?
So-
how do you?
I became the door guy.
So
But
he-
but
I'm
you
telling you
were
right now.
you were the manager, or you were just
Well,
like.
I started as a door guy, and as they fired people that were incompetent, I ended
this
up
goes on at
running the
comedy
whole
clubs
club.
all the- This goes on.
but how the fuck do you become a manager of a comedy
You
club and you're not a
cannot-
comedian?
It
Like you
doesn't
got.
matter.
Get out.
It's you could one day, like the waitress who spilled a drink on you.
She's the manager now.
The next day she's the manager,
And then she's the
telling you,
owner.
yeah, it's
Jesus Christ.
It's the weirdest. Can I curse?
Of course,
It's the
I-
weirdest fucking business I've ever seen. in
And
my
you guys
life.
don't have an. I heard you guys talk about this outside the studio here. You guys don't have a union.
No,
You have no union, right? So
There will never be a union.
there will never
I mean,
be a union.
How does a person like George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Artie Lang? I mean,
That's
these are
why
stand-up
agents
comedians.
and managers are pit bulls.
Yeah,
Is because when you get to a point where you actually can make money, a pit bull will latch onto you and go, "I'll make sure you get that money. I'll make sure
Yeah.
you move forward."
and what's a pit?
But until
and what,
you
how
get
would
that-
what would you define a pit bull? Who would you define as a pit
an
bull?
agent or a manager that
a
will
good
go
one.
in and negotiate for you because we're comics.
right. And there's a lot of shitty ones out there. Like you know that.
Oh no,
Well,
no,
and
they're
no matter
terrible.
what industry you're in, there's shitty ones,
Yeah.
there's good ones, and anything.
But you guys have managers, though.
And
Like
what's
I mean,
funny is-
I've spoken
well,
to
what's
comedians who have
funny
a
is-
manager, and they're
Yeah, when you're
like,
when you're not famous but you're making a living,
Yeah.
you can have a decent manager.
Yeah.
And then they're always mad when you hit it big and you go with someone.
Well, who's always mad? The manager.
the manager? Because it's like, yeah, but you didn't do much for I had Kevin James or whoever.
There are certain
You're like-
people, though. There are certain people that are big and they still have the same management, and people are like, "Why are you still with him?" And it's like, because they believed in me, they fought for me,
But that's a
they did all
rarity.
the right things for me.
Right.
That's a rarity.
So
Yeah, it's a rarity. Most of the time, a manager goes, "Let me know if something big happens, and I'll And
But
you're like,
how did? All right. So here's my next stupid question: is then how does a manager make money? How do they
they
survive?
book you into clubs around the country and they take a percentage.
Or
Can I
get
ask
you
what percentage they
opportunity.
usually take?
10 usually.
10
Okay,
to
it's like an
15.
agent. So basically,
yeah.
an
But
agent,
it's
10%.
also they get you opportunities. They might have.
They can.
What makes a good manager and
Right,
makes a
right.
good agent is their connections.
Okay.
So, like, I was with 2 different management teams that literally brought me in. They could care less about my stand-up. They could care less about me working on the weekends. They only wanted me under their umbrella because they had a client who was about to break, and they wanted a writer for when he got his show.
Do you believe in the notion, and I don't know if this is a notion or not, maybe I'm making this shit up right now. Do you believe in this notion that a great actor, some of the greatest actors that I should say, some of the greatest actors we've had were comedians, were stand-up comedians?
Yes.
I think
Absolutely.
Well, the thing about comedians, some of the greatest producers were comedians, some of the greatest directors were comedians.
Why? Why is that?
Because comedians, and I say this when young comics ask me about, I don't know what I want to do. If you look at it as the analogy of these are all lily pads, a comedian is their own writer, they're their own producer, their own promoter, their own star on stage. They do everything to put themselves on stage to do comedy. So it's easy for a comedian it's not easy to do, but it's easy for them to make the adjustment.
It's just part of the job.
To become a producer, to become a director, to become an actor, because we do it every night doing stand-up. So like acting, I act out all my bits, all my stories. I act in them. I do it. So with a little bit of help, you can make an actor a great actor.
So then you
He
take
and I are a little different, though. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
we're a
please.
little different because we did start out with acting.
Yeah.
And when, like, I've noticed that comics who start out as comics do have trouble because they're not used to playing off of somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
there's that,
Good point.
And what were you going to say? Because I wanted to make one more
No,
point.
Go. Continue. I got it in my head.
This is my own theory on this, and I've said it before, and I really think it's true. If you ever watch, especially the old TV shows, like your Show of Shows or Jack Benny, some of the funniest people on those sketches were the singers. And I believe it's because singers know they understand timing, they understand rhythm, they understand scatting, they understand improv. And I've always said, if you want, like Frank Sinatra was Judy Garland was hysterically funny.
Yeah.
And a lot of singers that I even know, they understand beats. And comedy's about beats.
But isn't there, and this goes back to my question a little bit, and I'm glad you talked about singers, because there's that LSD, lead singer disease, right? Where lead singers, they got huge egos, right? Now, you take
It's just because they don't have to carry equipment out at the end of the night.
But you take a lead singer, right?
I was the lead singer in bands, and they hated
They hated you.
I didn't have to do anything.
You didn't do shit.
And
You're like,
after
hey.
the show, you hit on girls at the bar while they were taking their drum kit apart.
My brother was the drummer.
Look at Richie over there talking to that girl. I could talk to her.
And every once in a while I go, you guys need help? like I didn't,
But all you have to do is drop one guitar.
And that's it.
And you're never helping.
They're like, don't
again.
fucking touch the crew. Don't touch the equipment. But you take a lead singer, right, who's got generally lead singers, and I mean this respectfully, they have big egos, right? Right? Because they're
They need to.
they need to,
They're
right?
going to stand in front of a
Right.
band. And
Now, here you take a comedian, a stand-up
Huge
comic,
ego.
right, who's to your point, right, you're writing for yourself, you're booking your own stuff, you're producing your own stuff, you're acting your own stuff, you're figuring it all out, you're your own director. Now you take that comedian and you put him in a either small budget, medium budget, or big budget, and you make them the star of the film, but all they got to do is act. Everything else is
dangerous.
Is that a difficult?
Yes.
Is that
I
difficult
think
for a
it is.
stand-up comic to go on and go, all right, now I am not the director, I'm not the producer, I'm not the writer.
Well,
but
that's why on sets, comics will do stuff like stop the take and go, hey, wouldn't it be funnier if I said this? And you're like, just stick to the script, asshole.
But there's the opposite too, where I've been called. We've talked about this before. I've been called into auditions for commercials, say whatever, and they're calling you in because you're a comic. And they go, just improv, and then you do something that they find funny, and they add it to the script, and they hire an actor.
And then you see a
That
really
goes on all-
good-looking
and there's
guy
nothing-
using your line.
Yeah,
and there's
there's
nothing,
nothing-
and there's nothing you can do about that.
Can't do nothing.
Happens all the time.
Wow, and is that where the unions would come in to protect?
Well, no, because there are unions for actor. You're part of that.
Oh, okay.
So
right,
it's just that it's kind of like, hey, we weren't married to this script, and you can't go, hey, I want to prove it too.
Right,
I mean, first of
right.
all, you're in a room with it's the old days where you were in a room, no one was really filming, and you were auditioning, and if they liked the line, they took the line.
How do we get you back on Broadway, or get you on Broadway? How do we do that? What do we got to do to get you?
Well,
back?
I'm working on it. I would love
Yes,
to. I
talk
mean,
about what
I
you. I know
actually
you just did a staged reading.
I did. I did. Which one are you talking about? I'm doing so many.
The one you just did recently with one of our friends,
Veronica.
Veronica.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Talk to us
She was
about
just
that.
talking to me about you the other day.
She's
she
awesome.
loves you.
She's awesome. Veronica's great.
She's the best. She kind of likes you, but she loves you. She.
I don't blame her.
She did it.
She
called
only
me,
loves me because her last name is my middle name. That's it.
Murphy.
No, yeah,
She
no.
called me.
She's great. Veronica's great. She's a go-getter.
She was in. We did a play
She
together.
recently just got married too.
She's getting married.
She's getting married.
Yeah, they're not married yet. We were in a play together that he directed that Vinny Nardiello wrote called Diving Horses. She played my daughter, and she was great, and I was fabulous, and
Depends which night.
and I loved her. I loved working with her. I just loved her, and I knew she was part of his crew. I knew he loved her.
Yeah.
And we've been in touch. We keep in touch, whatever. And then she called me a few months ago, and she said, "Hey, I have this short play that I wrote, and it's in a festival, and I need a director." And I found out that she had approached you.
Well,
and
she asked every director in
She
New
just
York.
about asked
and
every director, and then called me. And I said, I go, Veronica, I've never directed before, and she couldn't believe it. She
You
said,
never directed before?
No, I've never. Tom, I never even thought about. I don't know why.
The thing
It
about
just-
Richie, and I'm going to say this in all out of love, Richie is what has the greatest instincts, knows funny, knows how to deliver, has all of it. The one thing why I think you never directed is you don't have the drive to go outside of your comfort zone. Sometimes.
Maybe. I don't know. It never even entered my head. And he's a great director, and especially film. And I love what you do with film. I love your.
I
I
like working with actors.
I'm
That's
not
the
even a
thing.
big film guy, but I watched him, and he'll go, "Oh my God, no, you have to do this." I've seen him add shit to scripts that I thought were terrible, where you go, "Oh man, Rick Adonna just fixed this whole thing," you know. And anyway,
That's awesome.
So she said, "I don't understand." So I said, "Listen, if you don't want me to do it, I understand. If you," and she goes, "No, I do." And it was just it was a 15-minute play. It was really a sketch. And I used to have my own variety show in the city where we had sketches, and I was used to that. So, and it was just 3-character play.
Okay.
And we ended up winning this small little festival. And
That's
it was
awesome.
and the other actors were like, "You've never directed before?" They were like, "I can't believe it." And I'm like, "Yeah." And so I'm hoping to do more of it because I cannot tell you how much I liked it.
Yeah.
I think I always thought, no, I have to be seen. I think that's what it was. I think in my head, I was always the singer. I was always the comic. I was always the actor. And suddenly, the idea of not being the weirdest thing, Tom, was opening night, sitting in the audience. The play was about to start, and you probably experienced this and going, "Holy shit, there's nothing I can do."
No, at that point,
It's scary.
At that point, once it's on the stage,
You're
it's,
done.
It's like your first kid riding a bike.
Yeah.
You just have to let it go.
It's
and
not
whatever
easy.
happens on the stage happens. And I say this as a director. Sometimes I love live theater. And sometimes
So do I.
what happens on the stage, and sometimes it even happens in film. The actors find something that I did not find as a director in the moment. And quite frankly, that's comforting so that because as a director, you go, they feel that comfortable that they're going to go, fuck
Here we
it,
go.
I'm going to try something.
I
right?
love that.
And then all of a sudden you sit there, you go, holy shit, I didn't see that in rehearsal. I didn't think about that at all. And that's,
It's a cool thing.
I think it's really important as a director to let your actors play.
Yeah.
He
Right?
does that.
Let
the
them
hardest
play.
thing
You know?
to do because you have a vision and you have an idea, but you have to let them discover it. And a lot of times they surprise you because they've discovered something better.
1,000,000%. I mean, and as a director, it makes you look good.
Yeah.
Because,
You know what I
because someone
learned?
sees them and they go,
I-
"What?
I
that
ju-
was a great moment." Whatever, and you see it, you go, "Well, that really wasn't."
You know
much,"
what I-
You know?
you know-
Richie's in everything I
Yeah.
do anything. I always
That's
want
true.
Richie. Richie's like my rock. He's the guy I go to with
It is
anything.
true.
But
I wish he would pay me, but it's true.
I do with
Don't!
admiration. And but the one thing I always say to the actors on opening night, and I always go out of my way, and I try to do it privately, and sometimes I'll do it as a group.
Don't fuck this up.
No, but it's always right before the last minute of like it's time to leave the green room and let the actors prepare. As I always go, well, this is yours now.
Right.
Like I did my work and I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your play now.
It's funny because the opening night, Veronica was really nervous, and she was in it. And we met early, and she was like really nervous, and she's like, "You're not." I go, "I'm not nervous at all." And I was like, "It's funny because normally when I'm doing something that I'd be like her, and I couldn't, and I realized I did the work the right way.
Yeah.
I staged it the right way.
You got to
and
be
I
nervous
completely
the entire month of rehearsals.
and I completely trusted these three people. I completely knew they were gonna nail it, and
I
they
think
did.
it comes down to be honest with you, great directors. How do I say this?
A great director comes down to the casting.
That's
As long as
exactly
it's casted well.
that's exactly what I was going to say. If it comes down to who the director picks for those characters, because it gives the director so much less work to do, because they're like, all right, I know, well, if I'm going to cast Richie in this, I know Richie can do this. I know he can do that. He can do this. Bang, 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 bang. I don't have to worry about it. I just have to kind of like maybe steer a ship a little bit
That's
left
it.
or
You're
right
guiding
and a
the
little
ship.
bit.
You
That's
can't
it.
turn it on a dime. You
Any-
can only direct it.
And it's funny. You'll get a young, and I say young by experience. You'll get a young actor on a project, right? Whether it's film or whatever, and they're nervous. They don't know they're saying the line too loud, or that's actually harder to direct, because you're like, all right, I got to bring you back to where my vision, because you're not getting it. Versus if you're a good director, you cast somebody who already understands your vision. They get it. They go, you don't have to tell me anything. I get what's going on here.
A director in college told me it's the best advice. Not advice really, but it was the best observation. We were working on a play, and I forget which one, and he was directing it. Drew Harris, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was in and out of Wagner all the time.
I remember
Great.
Drew.
He's had an amazing career. He's been on Broadway and directed a lot of things. And he was saying, I said to him, pull me
Harris, I
back.
haven't
I'm
heard that name in a long
completely
time.
overacting, And he turned to me, and he was dealing with another actor who really sucked.
Say that one more time, because I talked over you.
That's what he said. I said to him, you got to pull me back. I'm overdoing this. And he's like, I'll get. And I'm like, no, I'm not there, Joe. I'm not. And he was busy working with this other guy who had nothing. And he turned to me at one point and he goes, it's so much easier to work with someone who's too over the top. I can rein them in.
Yep.
He said, but when you're not giving me anything, I can't
To
build
pull it
that
out,
up. And
to
that
pull
was
it out is hard.
amazing.
To pull it out is hard.
And I was like
wow.
20 years old, and that stuck with me as an actor my whole life. I'm
Yeah.
like, give the director more and let him pull you in. Don't give him less.
Yep. Go overboard.
Yeah.
Because you can always pull.
You could always rein it in.
You can always pull it.
It
out.
was funny because this one girl in the play I just directed, Hunter Corbett. I don't know if you know her. She's
Hunter
great.
very well.
And she had to play like an over-the-top character. And the first rehearsal, she was all over the place. And I remember going, all right, I'm going to have to work with her a lot. And I gave her a couple of notes, and she went home. And when she came back, she had it the next rehearsal. And I remember going, oh, this is someone I can work with. I gave her like 3 notes, and it totally snapped for her. And anytime I said, do this or do that, she just did it.
Yep.
And I didn't realize what a great attribute that is as an actor for a director.
Yeah.
You hear it.
Yeah.
But is the actor directable? And now I get what that means more than
for sure.
I should have directed years ago. I learned so much as an actor from being a director.
This is funny because it's like kind of full circle with this. So the whole reason I got into the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which is a hard school to get in, was because I got in. I don't know how I did it. I graduate. I have no idea how I got in. Don't know how I got through everything. We're at the graduation party, and I look at the head of the school, this guy Dino, and I go, how the hell did I get in here? Like, I have no experience. I knew nothing. I was an idiot. I was behind education-wise. Like, people in this school have graduated college.
Right.
With some of the people have masters in the arts. How the hell did I get in this school? And he goes, when you auditioned, I knew you knew nothing. And when I gave you direction, you tried it. So you were directable.
There you go.
And he goes, yeah, you weren't You didn't have it.
That's like athletes. That's like an athlete, right? Right.
It's athletes are very good actors. A lot. You know why? Because they're used to taking direction.
They're coachable.
They're coachable, and they know their body.
Right.
And that's a huge part of being an actor is knowing your body.
Right.
It's a huge part. Some of the best comics are amazing physically.
Why do you
know?
think, like, you take a look at some of these, like, the WWE guys, like
Yeah.
Rock and
They're used to
John
performing.
Cena, like,
Yeah.
they're good actors,
And they're
right?
not afraid to try things.
No.
John Cena went naked on friggin'
At the Oscars. No,
The
it was
Oscars.
great, brilliant.
you know. But yeah,
You still
so
haven't answered my question.
What was?
Will you get naked and just wear the
Yes, I will get naked. What was the question?
How do we get you on Broadway?
All right. Well, I'm working on a project. I'm going back to auditioning.
Okay.
I really, when I got the Dr. Oz show, I still did. I mean, I was still doing comedy all the time, and I had my own variety show at Gotham in the city,
Yeah,
which
but your
was
days were pretty.
my days were
filled.
pretty filled. But I stopped auditioning, and even before that, I really, in the late '90s, I was in an off-Broadway musical that was called Bad Boy Johnny that I thought was going to blow up. Everyone thought it was going to blow up, and I had a really cool part. I was the Pope of rock and roll.
Oh,
And-
with
awesome.
the Morse brothers.
And yeah, with the Morris Brothers. That's right. Yeah. And I came out, I sang one song. It was a killer song. And then I tried to
Do you remember
rate.
the song?
Yeah, nobody told me. I probably have the music somewhere too. And it's a cool song. And if I go
Could you
back.
still sing it today?
Yeah. If I go back, when I go back to auditioning for shows,
That's your song.
that's going to be one of the songs because one of the things they teach you, and you know this, is find a song no one knows.
Right.
Because if you walk into
Right.
audition and
Stand out.
sing,
Stand out.
yeah, sing the same song everyone's sung, you don't. But if you sing a song, people go, "What's that from?"
Right.
So I have got to find the music to this because it's a killer song. I could, 16 bars, I could crush it and go. But it was a great role. He sings this song, he kills the song, and then he does a scene with the lead girl where he's in a cocaine infused stupor and he's trying to rape her and he drops dead of a heart attack right on top of her.
Oh, Jesus.
And that's the whole, and then they carry him off. And I remember going, this is the role, man. Everyone was talking about that. You know what I mean? This play's 2 hours long and my 15 minutes stole the show.
That's great.
And then one day I did Rosie O'Donnell Show. I was the last stand-up comedian she ever had on the show before she went. Yeah, and I had to do that during the day and then go to the show at night and do my play, do the play. And she brought the play up on her show and go see Bad Boy
get
Johnny.
out.
It was, and I remember going, everything is finally, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
And then,
Stars are aligned.
yeah, the stars are aligning. And somehow the producers all got in a fight and the play stopped
Jesus.
showing. And my manager made poor decisions. 6 months later, I'm sitting on a cruise ship going, how did this happen? Like, what just happened in my career?
How does that happen?
It happens all the time.
How many does happen all the time? There's like, I don't
The
understand.
highs
it.
and lows of this industry is insane.
It's tremendous. But
unbearable.
like people fight, like producers, like you gotta hit, to your point. You've got a hit show on your hands. You've got something that's gonna blow up. And the producers, what were they? Do you know what they were fighting about?
Yeah, and it was all about the writer didn't like certain things that they were doing. He was from England. It was just a lot of different things.
You think they didn't figure that shit out before? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and
I mean, I'm not
no,
trying to
no,
put you
it
on the
goes
spot.
on all the time.
Nobody
I mean,
fights till money's on the table, man.
and you're sitting there waiting for that phone call where they go, "Hey, we're moving it to here now," and then that phone call didn't come.
It's
You know?
amazing. It's amazing to me that there's so many stories like that of stuff that could be, can be, or could be, right? It's the could be's. Oh, this could have been this, could have been that. Why? Because, so-and-so said, said something about my mother or whatever. Or I didn't like how he wrote this. I don't like how
He wanted
it's
me
like-
to change this song, and I wouldn't change that song. Well, good for you. Now,
It's like,
where,
you know
where
what?
are
but,
you?
like, look at the end goal, right? And I think, this podcast is about talking about the successes and the failures, the do's and the don'ts about independent filmmaking and being successful. And the one thing I will say is, as like collaboration is so huge, but always stick to your vision, right? And always collaborate. Listen to other people. Don't get so like, with those the blinders on, where you're
blinders
just like,
on.
well, this is what it's
Tunnel
going to be.
vision.
Mark, how many times you and I've driven here to the studio a couple times, and I'm always turned to Mark. I'm like, am I doing this right? What should I be doing better? Like, what am I doing wrong here? Like, and
Well,
it's
Mark,
what's well,
you haven't been
that's true.
involved in anything. It's probably the don'ts.
I fucking drove him here. I mean, Jesus. That was the
I
first.
should be the one driving you know, on
What?
the totem pole.
Wait,
I
how
should
did-
be driving, but
Where do you live?
I live. Well, I
He
live.
doesn't want DUI.
I live in mid New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to say because I don't want.
Yeah,
people,
I know.
You know.
I mean, but he's further down than you. Oh, did he meet you?
No,
at your-
he's in PA. He's in another state.
That's what I'm saying. But
He
I
comes to
drive
me.
to him, and
He
then
comes
we
to
drive
me.
together, so we can talk on the way here.
I got you.
And then he says, "Fucker, I'm not driving anymore. Come on, let's go."
So, but here, a
then he
thing
kicks
to
my
that
dog.
is staying open to the universe. You have
Yeah.
an idea and you have a thought, but you have to stay open to the universe. And my whole career is based on that. I was
you are the man throws everything against the wall. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I
No,
never
but-
seen anybody like him.
Dude, I was
I've never
in-
seen anybody like him.
I'm in
It's
high
amazing.
school. I'm gonna go to college and play football. I lose my scholarship because I get hurt. I've acted in the school play, but it was literally just to go up and fool around in front of an audience. It wasn't because I was like really in love with acting and I thought acting was my destiny. And it was like 4 a.m, and me and my buddy from high school are up and we're in my living room and PBS is on. And out of nowhere, True West play True West, and it's Gary Sinise and John Malkovich in Chicago doing True West. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I've seen theater. We've gone to plays at school, but they were always like very young oriented, you know, whatever. I watched True West, and at one point, Brett, my buddy Brett, was like, What's going on with you? I was staring at the television, standing in the middle of my living room, like, I want to do that. These guys are nuts. I don't know what they're doing. They're choking each other with phone cords. They're slamming in the tables. They're yelling at each other. There's spit flying. I'm going, this is like WWF, but without the body slams. Like, this is amazing. What is this play? And that's when I went, I gotta go to theater school. Like, I gotta do this.
And he did. I mean, at 17, which is amazing to me.
And I
man.
did it. And then I
I
started.
just think he was too stupid not to know what he was doing.
No, but then I would wait and working the door at a comedy club, and I go, I'm going to do this.
And you met this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that was back.
Well,
in
no, he met me in
1991.
1989.
Yeah,
In '89.
according
But
to you.
you were saying about
but it's staying open. That's it.
Yeah. And so now I spent a lot of years with the warm up where I was just a comic and a warm up pretty much.
Yeah.
And before warm up, I had, I'd been on Law and Order and Sex and the City and The Sopranos and small roles, but did stuff like that and thought, well, this might.
What was the line you
lead-
used in your special? You did the big 3.
I did the big 3. I did Law and Order. I didn't get arrested. I did
Sex and the
Sopranos. I didn't get whacked, and
You
I
didn't
did
get whacked.
Sex and the City, and I didn't get laid. I go, no other actor can say that. So,
There's a good trivia question.
yeah, really. So I during the pandemic, it's the first time since as an adult where I was like going, well, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. And this guy would call me every morning and go, we're doing this today. We're doing, which was great because he got me going. And we were doing our podcast
Play
5 days a
readings,
week. And then you were Zooming play readings. And it was just
awesome.
amazing. I never felt more energetic. I never felt more,
I had to do something.
yeah, he did. But in the middle of all of this, a guy I went to high school with who I was very, very close with, and we kind of lost touch a little bit, he called me and he said, hey, I have this idea for a play. I found out about this scandal that happened in Rhode Island in 1919, and he's a music guy, and he lives in Connecticut, and he said, so I have this music, and I really don't know what I'm doing. Can you listen? Tell me what you think. And he sends me like 5 songs.
Yeah.
And I'm listening. I went to listen to it, and I had the attitude of, what's this going to be? You know?
Right.
But I did like the storyline that he told me. And the songs were great. I mean, they were really good. And we started working together, and I ended up in the play. And recently I wrote, I've never done this before. He asked me to help him write the lyrics,
Very cool.
And I've been doing that. And then he didn't want a story. He didn't want a book. And we did a couple of showcases, and people were like, well, I didn't know what was going on because there's no book. And so I just spent the last year writing a book for this.
Gotcha.
And I really think there's something there.
What's it called?
Newport.
Newport.
And it's about a scandal that happened. I don't want to go into the whole thing right now, but
Gotcha.
I will. And it's a scandal that happened in 1919. It's a true story. So
you're writing the book now?
The book is written.
Okay.
Of course, now we're going to workshop it because everything needs work. The music, everything needs work.
Right.
But I've been working on this for 3 years now? Jesus. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's and again, it's like
that's your ticket to Broadway.
I'm hoping.
Awesome.
I would love.
Awesome.
I think it would be funny if I ended up as an author instead of a. I am in it right now, and I am.
Well, look at what you were just talking about earlier. You're an actor. You're a comedian.
Yeah.
And you never thought you'd be a director.
I never thought I'd be a director, and now all of a sudden I'm writing lyrics and writing a book for a play.
Right? So
you know,
you take it where like our last guest on the previous episode here. You just go where it takes you. Go where it takes you. Right?
He was saying that. He said that.
The thing about Vinny that kind of was stuck to me was, he was talking about all the different avenues, and you should go back and watch it if you haven't watched it.
It's a great episode.
But
I'm not saying that because it's ours. He's an inspiring individual.
Much better than this.
No, but the
Not
thing
true.
is like the only thing I knew how to do is work really hard. That's it. Like I wasn't smart. I didn't know what was going on. I got into this theater school. People are talking about authors and books that I've never heard of. And meanwhile, they're like, this is mandatory reading in high school. I'm like, never read it, never heard of it. But all I could do is outwork. I know I'm not as talented as a lot of my peers, but I'll outwork anyone. I will work harder.
Yeah,
than
he
anyone.
will. That's true. And again, another thing that during the pandemic, he calls me. He had worked with these two actors who were husband and wife. Yeah. And they had a production company, their own little production company. And he's like, hey, dude, they do readings of original plays. Or it doesn't even have to be a play. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And but it's all original. And nothing's been...
we're not doing Sam Shepard stuff.
Right.
And he said, and they bring in these actors, and they go, you're going to do this role. And they were doing it in their apartment. It's getting too big. He said, don't you have a friend who owns a bar in the Upper East Side? Does he? So I called my buddy, and he goes, yeah, you could use our upstairs. So once a month, we started doing these readings. And we were getting 40, 50 actors showing up, and it was just amazing. Awesome. And I met all these great actors and all these great kids. And I'm like, well, who do you study? And I'm like, I'm trying. And they were all kept talking about this guy, Neil Matarazzo, who is, he runs a school through the Beverly Hills Playhouse Theater and in New York. And I'm like, I got to try this. And so since July, I'm back taking my first acting class in like 25 years and loving it, dude. And everybody in it is 25 years old. And I'm just loving everything about it. I'm making great friends, great connections. And this has been, I keep saying to people, I feel like I'm 20 again. I have no money, and you know what I mean? And I'm working on 48 projects.
But you know what? And this is, and for people who are watching this podcast, hearing these stories of what Mark is talking about, what Richie's talking about, what our past guests have talked about, it's about, just keep working it. Just keep doing it, right? And reinventing yourself.
If you don't like the work, you're in the wrong industry.
Yeah. Exactly. Finding ways. Don't stop. There's going to be moments, right? I know Mark, you and I talked about it earlier today, and I'm sure Rich, you've had this, where you get moments you're going, what the hell am I doing this for? Right? You sit there, you go, oh my God. Like, I text you, Mark, about like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out.
I just get a text.
I was saying that when I was
right?
sitting on the couch waiting for you guys to finish so I could come in.
But it's like, you say, hey, fuck you. Wait. No, but like, you're right. You get those moments where you're kind of like, oh, what the hell am I doing this for? But you just got to constantly reinvent yourself. You got to constantly find ways of like being creative, whether you thought you were an actor, but now you're a director. You thought you were a director, but now you're a writer. You thought you were a comedian, but now you're you're a singer. You got to keep finding ways of invigorating and being passionate about something.
Yeah.
Right?
If you don't like the fight, this is a horrible industry to be in.
I know it's all about fighting.
I do envy the people, because I'm not, and this is going to sound a little egotistical, and I don't mean it that way. I envy the guys who are just comics and are just, because that's all they ever wanted.
I'm just concentrating on this one thing.
This is it, and I don't have that ability, and neither do you.
No.
And and I
The
want
second I'm bored in one thing, I move to the next
right,
one.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I did when I was doing the Dr. Oz show. I formed a band from the crew because I realized they all were musicians, and we did shows for like this. We go
awesome.
and rent a room and rent a bar.
I love it.
And like get like 80, 90 people in the bar, and we did covers.
That's
I have
great.
never been more happy
Doing that.
Doing that. I was
Right,
doing
right,
cover
right,
songs.
right,
I was,
right,
you know
right.
what I mean? And for
Yeah,
some
for sure.
reason,
For
And
sure.
I have a lot of friends who are, doing well financially, and they're doing, they picked a lane where they were going to make the most money possible, and they always ask me, they're like, "What's your end game, man? Like, what's your retirement plan?" I go, "Well, the thing is, I'm going to work till I die,
yeah, me too.
and with my lifestyle, I'm probably going to die early. So it's a pretty good plan."
At least you have a plan.
Yeah, I'm him 20 years later.
I mean, that's really it. It's like I just plan to keep doing
We've
it.
known each other for since 2019, around there, right?
Yeah,
When-
1981.
but we weren't best friends.
No.
And then as time went on, and we just like I always respected him, and I think he always respected me.
Yep.
And then a few years back, we both were working with the same quote unquote manager. And he said he had you. He said, "Mark, I'm working with Mark Riccadonna," and that was I went, oh, okay, I'm interested in that. And from that moment on, but no, it was even before that because
It was
Vinny
before that
Vinny
because
wrote the
we
boom
were-
and you directed it and I was in it and that was a great experience.
We made him audition for the part that was written for him.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's
wrote the part
hilarious.
for me, and
But
I
we
had
still made him audition just because we didn't want to give him this is your part.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and
great.
meanwhile, it was the part of a really bad comic that nobody likes, and I'm like, what?
With a gambling problem.
With
That's- I love it.
The funny thing is I just talked to Vinny the other day, the writer Vinny Nardiello, and he's got a new play coming out.
Well, wait, before we go move past this, I have to clarify it though. I don't ever, and Vinny is the same way, at all think you could be a bad comic. But you have to be a really good comic to be a bad comic
That's true.
on stage because it's the same with acting. Like if there's a script and you watch any of these movies like Bowfinger or State and Maine, any movie that has to do with making a movie and somebody's a bad actor in it, they have to be a really good actor
To be bad
able
at
to
it.
pull off
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bad actor.
Right.
Well, in this situation, it was more that he was a bad comic, but he also was that annoying guy that nobody likes. And I remember going, I so can play this role. Because
You know
I
that
know
part
this
of it.
guy.
Right,
like
right,
I've
right,
lived
right,
with
right.
this guy on the road.
that's
and
great.
you know what I mean? I'm like,
That's
I
great.
totally can play this role. It's not going to be a problem. But Vinny was funny because he wrote this new play. What's Rubber?
Rubber.
And we did a reading of it at my friend's bar, and I played one of the characters, and then he put it up in a theater in the Theater for the New City, right?
Yeah.
And Mark played a role that everyone was like, well, when we did the reading, people were going, you should be playing the other role to me instead of the role I read for. And then when they put it up, Mark played that role. And then Vinny was putting it up again. He's putting it up in April. And he said Mark wasn't going to be doing it. And I said, if you want, I'd be interested in reading for it. And he never called me. And I didn't know why. And he didn't call me. And then I just talked to him the other day, and he goes, I'm doing that. I go, yeah, yeah. And he goes, I decided that role should be younger, and I didn't know how to tell you that. And I go,
Oh, wow.
oh, Vin, I don't. I go, you don't have to explain to me.
Right.
And he goes, no, but like he talks to the other woman about retiring a lot, and I just thought that character should be younger, and that's why I didn't call you. I didn't want to offend you. And I go, Vin, when you gave me the role in The Boom, you told me you wrote it for me, and he's a shitty comic who no one likes. You were okay with that, but you weren't okay. Tell me I'm too old
Too
for
old. That's great. Oh, that's great. All right, so this is a question we ask our all of our guests, and we didn't prepare you for this, but we think we can. I think he can.
I think he'll not.
I think he'll knock
do
it out.
Is
of the
this
park.
going to become a sexual thing?
No, maybe you never know.
That's up to your answer.
I'm in.
All right. Whoa, hey. As my son would say, pause. Okay. You're stuck on an island. 3 movies.
Oof. Well, one, easily comes to mind. Blazing Saddles.
I haven't heard that since
best
season
answer
1.
ever.
Yeah.
I haven't
Love
heard
it.
that since season 1, I think.
I love. That's one of my
Well,
all-time
I think
favorite movies.
everybody
You
said
can,
it.
and you still can't make that movie today.
You can't make
yeah,
it today.
you can.
No, you can't.
There's
You-
a TV show about a teacher who makes meth that went like 10
You
seasons long.
cannot.
It's
You
not-
cannot
but
make a
Blazing Saddles
show
can be made.
where all of a sudden you see a black person riding a horse and
They're saying the
and
N-word.
saying the N word while the bell is going off.
Yeah, and
you can't.
The
You
sad
just
part
can't.
about that is you're missing the point.
Exactly.
If you don't, what the
Exactly.
problem is today? And I say, I piss people off with this because I've had people say something about, I found this offensive or I found that offensive. And I go, it's not your fault. You just don't have a sense of humor.
Right.
And they're like, what? And I go, some people can't dance. Some people can't sing. Some people can't draw.
Right.
You don't have a sense of humor.
Right.
And people get very offended by that. I'm like, you just told me you didn't get the
You
joke.
have the ability to be offended.
You're
very
yes,
good at that.
You're very good at that. You're right, and you're very good at picking out what. But if you're gonna go, this is offensive, and I'll tell you why, and you're not gonna listen to me and tell you why it's not.
Not exactly. Why it's not offensive.
Why he's making a point. The whole movie is a great point. And Mel was smart enough to. Mel Brooks was smart enough to go. I love this story. He goes, I can't write this with like 5 Jewish guys. I got to get a black guy.
And he got Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
Right.
Imagine that.
Right. He got
Richard Pryor. And he, according to Richard Pryor, always said that the most black things that he wrote, Mel wouldn't use. And Richard was like, but like the most offensive stuff, Richard wrote. And Mel would go, I can't do that. And Richard would go, but I wrote it. He goes, but they'll think I wrote it.
Right. Yeah.
He also, I saw Mel Brooks' interview. I thought this was really cool. He would make, he had a censor. They had a censor who would come from the studio, and the censor would tell him, no good, no good. So every day the censor would watch the dailies and go, you can't do that, you can't do that. So Mel made scenes that were so offensive. And the reason he did that, this is such a great story. The reason he did that was because he knew the censor would go, no way. And Mel would go, well, you got to give me this. And this is what
They use that rule in the writer's room now, where it's like if you have a joke you really want in, you write a really, really awful one. So then when they go, you can't do that joke. Okay,
give me this.
You can have that, but we can do that.
But
right?
Mel said that there were certain scenes that he made for that reason where the censor went, oh, that's okay. Mel's like, what are you talking about?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, isn't that a great story?
I love that. I love that story. All right, so Blazing Saddles.
I love Blazing Saddles.
One of the best films ever made.
It's so brilliant.
Hilarious.
I mean, it's probably I'm blanking on the name, and I hate that I am. The Brando one where he's the boxer. Where am I blanking?
On the waterfront.
On the waterfront.
Okay, great.
On the waterfront. Oh my
Great,
God.
Great film.
And
Now
And it's not in any order either,
Watch it.
so-
I
Yeah.
found the DVD.
3 you said, right?
Three. Mm-hmm. Can you split it?
Well, no,
Can
I
you
was-
do an A and B?
Well, I mean, how do you do Godfather 1 without Godfather 2?
We were just talking about that on our last
know?
episode. I just watched Godfather 2 last night, and we were talking about old filmmaking, right? And the scene, there's no movies. Everything is cut. It's like, coverage. There's no 2 shots. There's no, big shot. And it was a scene where Michael comes in to talk to Fredo, and Fredo has to tell him, and he's like, I'm smart.
Yeah.
I could,
yeah.
But most of that scene is in a 2 shot.
It is.
Right?
It's
There's-
funny. I just saw it the other day.
There's not many. There's a little coverage.
When Michael walks away and he just walks out of the shot.
He walks out of the
And
shot,
Fredo
and then
goes,
Fredo
Mikey!
Mikey, right? You
So
don't see.
brilliant.
You don't see that
No.
in film today.
No,
right?
now it'd be right on him. Right on him.
Yeah, you
Right,
see him go, Mikey.
Yeah.
Like, but it was more
so-
about. It was dark. It was the lighting. You saw
Yeah.
the water behind it.
Oh, so
right. You
brilliant.
couldn't really see. You couldn't see their faces.
Yeah.
You just knew what they were talking about.
And
right?
that was the last time Michael talked to him.
Yeah.
And until the mother died, that's so great too.
Yeah.
When the mother dies, and he
when he hugs him and he looks at
he's
Al.
looking at Al because he had told Al, as long as my mother's alive, nothing happens.
No one touches him.
No one touches him. And then Talia Shire goes in and says, Michael, please go talk to him, please. And he
Right.
just hugs him, and he's just staring at Al.
Yeah, he knows.
And,
He knew.
it
All right,
was
so here's
brilliant.
all right. So Godfather 1 and 2, probably. I have a trivia question for you that has to
How
do with
about
the
you?
Godfather.
I would want it-
You're,
you know
you're
what?
allowed to take the box set, but you have to take 3.
All right, well, I'll tell you what.
Wait, which 3? Is it the Coda, the death of Michael Corleone? Because that's they did a little bit better, but you still
little
had,
bit.
but it was still
I
terrible.
hated that they made Michael such a fop in that. He was such.
I didn't mind that. I didn't like the whole. I loved Andy Garcia. I didn't like. The
I could have
whole,
lived without the cousins making out. And
Yeah,
all
the
that
incest
crap.
thing.
Yeah, it made no.
That-
And she was awful.
Oh, she was
And
terrible.
she's such a good director.
She's a fabulous director.
But she was so bad in that part.
Oh, it was Coppola. He had to put somebody because he had somebody else.
No, he did. It was
and she was pregnant. I
no.
think,
Johnny
or-
Depp came and took her away. They were dating.
Oh, that's what it was. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, Johnny. Oh, she was.
There was yes. They had somebody
big time
else.
actress.
Yes, they had somebody else. I can't think of her.
Writer. Well, no,
Winona Ryder?
Was it Winona Ryder?
No.
I can't remember who it was. But there
whoever
was,
it was.
they had a big
she
actress.
Apparently was on set and she was dating Johnny Depp, and he like showed up and went, "Well, I'm going to Paris, and you better come with me. I'm going to break up." And she, I got to go with him.
Yeah,
And they were like, "All right,
And
we'll
then-
put my daughter in."
We'll put Coppola's daughter in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 3 was. I
But
mean,
the idea of 3 was great. It
was a great
bring
idea.
The Catholic Church in and
right,
the Pope
trying to,
dying.
he's trying to
and all.
get legit.
And I think people hated 3 so much that the only reason I went back again was I had a brother who was going, "Go watch it again," and you went and watched it. Now you can sit in your house and watch it. Like when you're in the theater, going, "I paid all this money for this shit."
Yeah, no, it was not.
But when
well
you
done.
watch it again, you go, "Man, there's some really good stuff here," but there wasn't enough good stuff.
No,
you
it
know?
wasn't. It wasn't. Andy Garcia was probably the best part of that whole film.
Probably.
You know,
Montaigne was good.
Montaigne was awesome.
Montaigne
Joe
was
Montaigne
really good.
was great in that.
I've
got a stone in my shoe. I'm not sure if it's your problem or it's my problem.
Yeah.
All right, here's my trivia question for you before we wrap up. You ready? It has to do with The Godfather, the first Godfather. Who was not at the funeral of Vito Corleone? Who was
I'm
not
not
there?
allowed to answer this.
You are not
'cause I
allowed
know
to
the
answer. You know the answer.
Who was not
at the funeral? Who was not at the
And
funeral?
why?
Well, we don't know why. You can Google it. Google it. Google it. Who was not at the funeral for Vito Corleone?
I'm trying to remember. Look what they did to my boy.
Well, that was Sonny. Yeah,
No, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't even venture a guess. I mean, maybe. Like I'm trying to think why. Maybe Abe Vigoda, the Tessio, or
Fredo.
Fredo was in Vegas. Fredo was in
not,
cute. No,
he was not in that scene at the funeral. To this day, you Google it. There's really no. I don't think there's a full explanation.
There's not a
as to,
definite answer.
There's not a definite answer of why the actor was not on set.
You know
day.
that-
Why wasn't now? Fredo was in Vegas, right? His
Yeah, but
character-
Vegas was 2.
But he was in 1 too. No, he went to Vegas in 1.
Oh,
He
he
went to
did.
Vegas. He went
That's
to
right.
Vegas in
They
1.
sent him out there.
They sent
Yeah,
him out there.
right, right.
But there's no reason why he would not come
Right,
back for his own
right.
father's funeral, right? I
I never realized this.
Yeah, Fredo is not in any of the shots.
because the actor wasn't available.
I don't
It's
think
not
the
'cause
actor
of the
was available.
character.
Did he know he had cancer yet? You know that I just recently read that he was so sick during the Deer Hunter
Oh, really?
that
That's in my top.
Meryl Streep took that role because they were dating. They were
Oh, get out.
they were engaged.
What a
And
great
Meryl
actor.
Streep took that role. She didn't want to play the role. She didn't think there was anything to it.
He's such a great actor.
And
though.
she took the role to make sure to be there because she knew he was dying.
Jesus.
And she,
Oh,
isn't that amazing?
oh.
And that's the only reason she took that role was she didn't want to be away from him. She wanted.
Go watch the funeral scene.
I got it now.
Go
I
watch
can't
it.
even
You'll
remember
see-
the funeral
You'll see
scene.
Tommy. You see
Yeah.
Tom. You see everybody. Ed Tessio. They're all there. Fredo's the only one that's not there. And when one of our guests brought that up to me, it was Tony Mangano, who brought it up to us in season 2. And I went back and watched it.
I have to go back.
And I was like, holy shit, Fredo's not there. And there's no explanation.
Is Godfather on your list?
Oh, yeah.
What's your list?
Oh, my list? Ooh, Stuck on an Island. Yeah, I would probably say Godfather. I love Godfather 2, but the whole thing about how she decided to get the abortion really upsets me. That when she decides,
Yeah.
when Kate decided to
Yeah.
not have his son, his second son, like that upsets me. And then he beats the shit out of her. Like he whacks
I mean,
her.
I loved I love the De Niro stuff.
De Niro stuff is amazing.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong.
God.
Don't get me wrong. But I Godfather 1 is probably would be one. Probably Blazing Saddles.
Oh wow, look at this.
And my other film is, because I'm a superhero guy, is The Dark Knight.
Well, it's funny. I love The Dark Knight, and
Dark
I'm not
Knight's-
a superhero guy, but I love
The Dark Knight's such a great. I remember walking out of that movie, The Dark Knight, and I was pissed.
Why?
I
I
walked
thought
out.
you liked it.
I loved it. I was so pissed because my brother looked at me. He goes, "Why?" I'm like, "I want to make a movie like that."
Yeah.
Not because it was a
I
superhero,
love
but it was
Christopher
there
Nolan.
was
Right, it was
Christopher-
Nolan, right?
It was Nolan, and there were so many layers to that film.
Yeah.
Right? There were so many layers to that.
It was
film.
such a different superhero.
It
film.
wasn't even a superhero film.
It was a
and
film
it
about a
won-
man-
It should have
right.
been nominated for
Should have
Best
been
Picture that
nominated.
year.
Absolutely.
That was the year. It was
So dark.
Dark
Game
Knight.
changer.
It was Gran Torino. That was the year when they decided to go
love
from
Gran
5
Torino.
films. After that year, they went to 12 nominations.
Oh, yeah?
That's when the Oscars changed it because they realized they fucked up. Sorry, Academy, but they screwed up that year. They
Gran
knew in
Torino is a
2008.
movie that is very underrated.
It's a great movie, but everybody in that movie is terrible other than
Him.
Clint Eastwood.
He's so good.
He's amazing in that
Well,
movie. He carried that film.
Yeah.
What were your 3? Listen, this
Well,
fucking
before you
guy's
say it,
3.
one of the regrets I
I'm
have
gonna
about
punch
the
him.
3 I just said is I like action films a lot. I like and
Love 'em. Love 'em.
and it'd be hard for me not to pick an action film and
Die
bring it-
Hard.
Die Hard, or I really love the Gibson one, Mel Gibson,
Lethal Weapon?
Lethal Weapon. Yeah.
Lethal Weapon, yeah.
He's so fucking great in that movie.
So good.
You know another one, Midnight Run.
Midnight Run is probably one of the best
It's hard
movies.
for me not to
Good
pick
growth.
Do you know how
Midnight
many
Run.
times I'll hang out with somebody and I'll have like a couple of like 20s or whatever, and I'll like put a couple, and we're counting money out. I'm like, those are good. Those are no good. Right? And they look at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, you never saw Midnight
You know
Run?
what? Charles Grodin, to me in that movie, it's like watching an acting class.
Yes.
He's so brilliant.
What a
His
great
stream
film.
of consciousness
What a
is
great
unbelievable.
film. That's a
And
movie that should never be remade.
Mark and I know his daughter. She's a comic.
Oh, you told me
married.
this, yeah.
And I used to be on. She had a radio
he's
show.
dead now, right?
Yeah, he just died last year.
Last year,
She
that's
had a radio show on iHeartRadio, and I was her. She asked me to be her co-host, and it was only once a week. And he would call in every week at the end of the show.
Oh.
And he was drunk. He was 2 martinis in, and he never knew my name. And he knew it ended in E. So he'd be like, "How you doing, Billy?" And the next thing, "Hey, Timmy." And she would always turn to go, "You know, he really doesn't know your name. He's not fucking with-" I go, "I know that. I know that."
That's great.
And then I got to meet him at Gotham, and she said to me, "Don't bring up Midnight Run. He hates it." Because everybody brought it up. It was every actor would
such a
want to
great-
talk to him about it. And I go, "All right."
It's one of the best movies ever
Oh
made.
my
Best
God,
movies
De
ever made.
Niro's so phenomenal, just playing.
best movie
for
ever
De
made.
Niro at that height to let Grodin steal the movie, and
Yeah.
he had to know
Yeah.
he was stealing the movie. And
So good.
I give De Niro so much credit for that, man.
Oh, such a great movie. Shut up. I will bury this phone right in your chest, all right?
When he says, he goes, "I'll kill him right now."
Yeah. He goes, I swear to God, I will shoot him and I will bury him in the river.
Right.
What's your 3? Listen to this. Have you heard this guy's 3 movies?
It's got to be like the Three Stooges.
And I love you, Mark. I love you, Mark. I'm just messing
Something
with
about Mary, Outside Providence, and Beverly Hills Cop.
All right, but
you. Beverly Hills. What was the
I don't
other
hate
one?
Beverly
Joe
Hills
Dirt's
Cop.
usually
Joe
on
Dirt's
it,
in there. Joe Dirt's in there.
but Beverly Hills Cop took it because I just watched it recently and just I want to watch it again.
They got a new one coming out, Beverly Hills Cop, right?
I don't
On
wanna watch
Netflix.
it.
Axel Foley? Axwell.
Achwell.
Beverly
My
Hills
son,
Cop was
my
great.
son's
Beverly Hills Cop
named
was a great
Axel.
Martin
48
Best.
Hours was
Martin
great.
Best, who also did Midnight Run. Martin Best.
Martin Best, that's right. I forgot about
Great
it. You're
director.
right.
Great director.
48 Hours
48
changed
Hours.
the genre.
48 Hours was a movie about racism.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right? You took 2 people who you had a far racist black, far racist white, hated each other, and they would kill each other. But at the when it came down to it, they put their racism aside and they went, "We got to win.
We got to
do this. We got to work together." Right? It didn't matter at that point. Color didn't matter.
What a brilliant, to me,
Brilliant.
a
movie.
brilliant way to bring his first moment on film. And when he's singing Roxanne in the,
Oh yeah.
and
In
you're
the jail
like,
cell,
and you
yeah.
hear him, and you
Yeah.
know it's him.
Yep.
And he was huge from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
See, you guys are younger than me.
No,
I saw it
he
in the
was-
movie theater, and you know and he was huge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah,
apparently had no idea what he was doing on that set, and talks about it.
Oh yeah.
He was a complete mess. And as he,
So-
and the
so
first
great.
20 minutes he's not even in it, and the first 20 minutes is brilliant.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
shoot him, Jack,
Yeah.
shoot him. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And then you're like, where's Eddie Murphy? I thought this was a comedy. What's going on? And then you're hearing Roxanne and you're like, oh my God. And the build up, that I learned a lot from that too, was they built it up. They gave you so much tension that when the comedy finally hit, it was even funnier than it really was.
It let out a lot of air. It was like, okay, now we can enjoy this a little bit more, and there's something else. Yeah. I love that scene in 48 Hours where he's like, Jack, what? Tell me a story. Fuck you. Oh, that's my favorite. It's the best lines ever. I laugh my ass off every time.
My
Fuck
son's
you.
name's Axel, and every time somebody goes, "Oh, you're
Axel.
a rocker," you like Axl Rose, right? And I'm like, Axel Foley. But it's actually named after Angie's grandpa.
I love it.
But in my head, somebody said, "What do you hear
Joe
in your
Dirt.
head?"
Did he really say Joe Dirt?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great
he did.
movie.
Yeah, Joe Dirt.
In my head, people go, what do you hear in your head when you're writing? And I said, I hear Eddie Murphy and I hear Mr. Rogers. And when they agree, it's
I love it.
it's perfect in line.
Dude, this was great.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
I loved
really
it.
appreciate it.
Good to see
Really
you again.
appreciate it.
Hey,
I really
I had
appreciate it.
so much fun doing your show last year. Your
Checked Out.
Checked
yes. So
Out.
we're gonna be doing a season 2 of Checked Out.
yeah, man.
So we got to get you in.
I'm
there.
available.
We're gonna
We'll see.
And I'd like to
We'll see.
do a character that doesn't have a Scottish accent, but
should it be a bad comedian?
if we could, I'm good at that.
A bad comedian who's also a bad director?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm fucking
the
with you.
whole 9 yards.
After the Joe Dirt insults, we'll see if there's anything
no.
available.
Wait, me or him? Because right now we both insulted you. All right, guys, check us out. Go on to 624 Podcast. Watch us. Go on to the 624 YouTube channel. You can see Checked Out. You can see the episode called Scotty with Richie Byrne. Mark Riccadonna plays Mark in Checked Out. But thanks so much for coming out.
My pleasure. It was great seeing you
This
guys.
is awesome.
Not you, but it was great seeing you.
Awesome. Welcome to the 624 Pod, your home for all things independent films. We're going to discuss all the positives and negatives when it comes to independent filmmaking. We're going to have incredible guests from the film industry talk about behind-the-scenes experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how the industry has changed in the past 10, 20
minutes.
30, minutes, hours, years. That's the point. It's always changing. And of course, we will always focus on independent filmmaking right here in our state of New Jersey. I'm Tom Baldinger.
And I'm Mark Riccadonna.
All right, let's do this.